Now, this was a surprise, not the least of which because I found Origin's Wheeljack here in my local Target, and our local Target in the past has been absolute garbage when it comes to actually having figures at all, other than like really old stuff. But they've been better. The Sideswipe, Studio Series Sideswipe, and Sunstreaker that we looked at recently were also from there, so it was all kind of a big surprise. But the reason why this is more of a surprise is because I wasn't really expecting much of anything from Origin's Wheeljack here, and he really blindsided me. I actually like this figure a lot, and I'll get into why now. First off, clearly he is a bit boxy, and I do not like the giant wings on the back. I actually really don't like that. But that's just where you store them. It's something like I never really paid too much attention to. Yes, hi Astrid. I never really paid too much attention to the talk leading up to this figure. I didn't really watch any videos on it because it was one where I was kind of like, I'll pass. But kind of saw him in the store and was like, oh, maybe I'll get him. But yeah, like, don't like the wings. The wings are ugly, and I really don't like the giant wing pack that he has back there. Hi, Astrid. Yes, hi. I really don't like the wings. But here's the thing, like, I never realized, and I'm sure other people did, but like, I never realized the wings are just an optional accessory. Like, it literally, you just pop them off and put them off to the side, and that's it, they're gone. You don't have to think about them ever again. I mean, they'll come back into play in vehicle mode, but like, they serve no purpose for the robot mode other than to junk up his back a bit, so just pop it off and leave it off to the side. But the way they attach, there are these little peg spots on the sides there, and these tabs on the backpack here, and they just peg over that, and that's how they stick on. But like, yeah, you could just take this and not use it, and the robot mode does not suffer for it at all. This is 100% not necessary for the vehicle mode. So like, yeah, the worst part about the figure for me is something that doesn't matter. So I like that I can just put it off to the side, never think about it again. But yeah, this is a cool Wheeljack. He's very boxy, definitely got a lot of junk hanging off of him. He's not the cleanest. His backpack is quite big, and his calves are also quite big. He's definitely a little bit messy in terms of kibble management, but like, considering all that this does, I'm actually really impressed with how this guy works. And really the only problem with the kibble for me is the fact that his calves are so chunky they can kind of whack into each other. So if you want to angle them out, you kind of have to bring legs out more to give them clearance to twist, which isn't the worst thing because I don't mind having like a slightly, wide-legged, slightly more dynamic pose when I'm doing like shelf displays and stuff, or not shelf displays, but like displaying my stuff on the shelf. But like, yeah, it's it's fine. It's perfectly manageable. Aesthetically, I think he works really well. He's a little bit simple in terms of deco, but the color breakup is here. Like, the shins and feet all white, darker, middling dark to dark gray for like the waist and thighs and like the forearms and biceps, and you get some more white in the torso and shoulders, gray in the head, that kind of thing. So like, it's very simple, but it does break it up. More paint will come into play in vehicle mode. But like, yeah, it's a little simple. Nothing an inevitable sticker sheet can't fix. But like, as it is right now, it doesn't really bother me because the color breakup gets the point across. And also, this is supposed to be like an animation Wheeljack, so he didn't have quite as much going on in terms of detailing in robot mode. So that's fine. Astrid, be careful, please. Bumping my tripod. Yes, hi. You want to say hi to everyone? Yeah? I have no idea if her yelling is coming across on the microphone. Now, in terms of things I would really not really have a problem with, but like minor critiques in terms of like robot mode stuff. The arm shape was a little weird. His elbows are like kind of far up, and the biceps are incredibly small. Like it's okay, but like it's a little bit of a weird design. Also, his wings on the back are very tiny. It would be nice if they were a little bit bigger, but I understand, you know, to get everything to fit that they had to be that size. But yeah, chunky legs. But again, because of how everything folds up, I get it, and I'm actually kind of impressed with it. And then around the back, he's got these little bits that these are just where they plug when you're in robot mode. They actually peg here for vehicle mode, and if you really wanted to, you could leave them pegged in. They don't look great, but you could leave them like that. I don't mind doing a tiny bit of parts forming to just peg these back here because it gets them out of the way. But yeah, I am genuinely shocked by how effective this wheeljack is. The kind of minty plastic that they used for the window chest, I feel like if it was a little bit less opaque, or a little bit more opaque rather, less see-through, it would be beneficial. But again, like every Pro Label set is inevitably going to come out that'll probably address that. And also, you may have seen just then, there's one issue that I have with the design of this guy. It's very easy to pop this assembly out here. It does peg in, and it pegs in relatively securely. Like, as you can see, it's not really wiggling out. But if you grab him down here, it is possible to push in, and that'll pop it out, and then it's wiggling all over the place. So that's something to be mindful of. You want to kind of grab him more up here, but like it does hold in place for the most part. And yeah, I do wish this was a little bit more opaque, but I like the design. I like the color, the little bit of color it adds to the chest. It also is very evocative of Wheeljack, and it looks good. He's also got his shoulder gun, which can unpeg. Oops, see, there it goes, popped out again. It can unpeg, and this is also made out of that translucent minty green plastic, but painted silver. And this can peg into his shoulder, as you saw, or peg into his fist. So you can do that. And I'm remembering to do this now. Let me find, there it is. Find the blast effect part. As you can see, there's a little nubbin on the end of the gun, so you can plug in blast effect. Yay! And yeah, that is how all that goes down. I prefer to keep this pegged into his shoulder because there is a dedicated peg hole right up there, but you got options with this guy. Now, let's take a look at that head, because it is a wheeljacky head, and it's great. It's a really nice, you know, they got the slinky face, they got the 3 bits going around the outside, they got the big ears. The one thing that I'm kind of like on this head design is it's this dark gray plastic that they used for the whole head, which is fine, but like the area around the eyes is still the same dark gray plastic, so the dark blue they used for the eyes doesn't stand out as much. I think either lightening up the area around the eyes or using a lighter color of blue would have gone a long way to make those eyes pop more. But other than that, I really like the silvery, gunmetal-y color that they did for like the ears, the head crest, and the mouth plate. The sculpt is there, the colors are there. It's just the eyes get lost a little bit. But it is classic Wheeljack, as you'd expect. Now for the articulation, the head is on a ball joint, so you can get some up and down. I keep untabbing this section because I'm pushing down here. The head does move up and down. It can kind of tilt left and right a bit, and then you can look left and right. If you untab this section, you can kind of use this platform that moves for some reason to go up and down a bit more, but it's really kind of negligible what you get out of it. The arms can theoretically do a full 360, but the junk back here does get in the way. But if you bring them out, you can go all the way around. You can go out to 90, you get a bicep rotation and 90 degrees of elbow bend. Additionally, you do get wrist swivels. He actually does have swiveling wrists, which is cool. You get a waist rotation that, despite what you might think, is not impeded at all by the chunk of backpack, by the entire top of the vehicle being on his back. The hips can go forward to slightly past 90, can go back only about that far because of all the junk back here, but it's fine. They can go out to not quite 90, but still pretty far. You get a thigh rotation. The knees can actually bend slightly more than 90. It's interesting, they kind of like, it gets to a stopping point here, and then they kind of like tab in, and you get a little bit of wiggle here, but like it kind of locks the knees in a straight position, and then when you want to bend them, you have to like untab them. I don't really know why it was designed like that. It's something I've been noticing a lot with more recent figures, where the knees just kind of seem to generally lock in place on a lot of them. It's fine. Like, I think unless you really want like really subtle knee bends, I don't think it's a problem. But it's just something I'm noticing. Also, something I'm noticing is little thigh fillers. So people complaining about hollowness can shut up about it with this guy. Because yeah, aside from like the backpack, like you really don't have any hollowness. The forearms don't have any hollowness, so maybe we can be quiet about that for once. Anyway, the ankles are on ball joints, so you do get some pretty nice tilts, even forward and backward, and rotation. So yeah, he's actually pretty posable. Yes, the kibble junk does get in the way, but that's, I don't know, like, again, like because of what this guy does, I'm not really bothered by the kibble getting in the way of the posability that much. And he's pretty posable for what he is, which is really impressive to me. What's slightly less impressive, which I'm sure is something that other people have noted or will note, is that despite being a Voyager class figure, he is not Voyager height. If we bring in Buzzworthy Dinobot, there's like that right there is kind of all you need to see. That is not a Voyager height figure. Bring in our Ova Prime Tall Deluxe surrogate and our actual regular Deluxe with Burnout. You can see that, yeah, Origin's Wheeljack is a Voyager class figure, but a Deluxe height figure. Now, personally, that doesn't bother me. I understand why that would bother some people, and they might feel like they're not getting their money's worth. I get that. I don't think they're necessarily wrong. I will, though, say, just consider what this guy does and how much is going on with him when looking at that. Because, like, yes, Wheeljack and Burnout they're basically the same height. They're the same height. Wheeljack looks maybe a little bit bulkier just because of the kibble and junk on him, but like, they're basically both deluxes. I completely understand that. But again, there's a lot going on with this guy, and we'll see that when we get to the transformation. Also, while we're here, let's bring in my other Origins figure, Origins Jazz. You can see that Wheeljack is just a little bit taller than Jazz, so there is that. But like, yeah, Wheeljack is essentially deluxe height. That is, there's no denying that, and I completely understand why that might be a turnoff for some people, but I urge anyone who is wanting to pass on Wheeljack because of the height, if that's the only reason you don't want this Wheeljack, I urge you to reconsider. At least think about it. Maybe if you have a friend who owns this Wheeljack, mess around with them on your own time when you have the chance. Because despite that height problem, he is actually a surprisingly cool figure. Now let's get Jazz out of here so we can do our most important and vital of all size comparisons. There is Wheeljack with the duck tank. All right, now before we move on to transforming Origins Wheeljack, if you like this video or any of the other videos that I've done on the channel and would like to support me, I've got a Ko-fi and a Patreon, links to both at the end of the video as well as down in the description. Otherwise, if you would like to support the channel without spending any money, which I completely get, you could always do the typical YouTube thing of like, comment, share, subscribe. Now, with that out of the way, as you saw, we just take off bits here. Also, these pieces, it's hard to see, but these pieces are actually molded in that same translucent greenish minty plastic and just painted silver. So there's that. Now to transform Wheeljack is actually pretty cool. So to start, I'm going to just kind of straighten everything out. And going to rotate the head 180 degrees, untab the torso because it's going to do that anyway, and also you want to untab the this section here. This just kind of unhooks from there, and this can kind of sit out like that. And actually, no, before doing that, I want to rotate the waist 180 degrees. Now, just kind of bring this all down. Going to rotate the, okay, we're going to take care of the arms, so we're going to rotate the fists that they're pointed, so the backs of the hands are pointed up. Untab this panel here, and on mine, these panels were kind of loose. I ended up tightening them up a little bit so they don't pop off quite as easily, but untap those and then rotate the fist in to the arm, but you want to leave the panels out. And same deal here. And now, I'm going to rotate the arms up and around and have them out all the way. I'm going to rotate the biceps and fold the elbow in. So like this is the top of the forearm. Now we're kind of bending it backwards. And what will happen is this tab here is going to hook into this little slot on the back of the shoulder. Like so. And that takes care of that. And now you can untab the backpack. It just kind of tabs into the backs of the wings here. So pull that back. And this will hinge back on this double hinge. It's very subtle, but it does hinge back. And with that hinged back, the wings here can now fold in like that. So they fold around that strut. And I'm just going to untab this while we're at it because it's just easier to do it now. So with all that done, I'm going to rotate the shoulders in, and these bits will kind of overlap and interlock like that. And now this will fold back, and there's like this little slot thing here that will tab over, that'll go over this tab here on the front. So you just want to line that up and tab that in, and that will form the front of the vehicle. Now comes all the interesting stuff with the legs. The legs do a lot. First, because I always forget, just going to rotate the feet around 180 degrees. Now we untab the legs, and this is something that surprised me. These panels do actually tab in. Like there's a slot here that tabs in back here, and that locks this whole chunk of panels together really nicely. It is weird that there's this bit here. You can just kind of see here, this bit here that tabs in here. If you tab this in, which it does sit, this won't tab in. If you tab this in, it pulls this out. So you kind of have to decide one or the other. I prefer to have the back tabbed in because that's the more solid option of the two, but that's how that works. But anyway, going to, actually before we untab that, going to take the legs and basically break them at the knee. So you want the legs to kind of bow in like this. Now, going to untab these and fold these panels out, and then these panels can rotate down. These panels will untab from here, and this is another secure thing where like these tab in here so it actually holds together, again, surprisingly well. So untab this, bring that around. This will now rotate 180 degrees on a built-in swivel thing. These panels here fold out and then fold up. And also, while we're doing this, you want to take the feet and they will tuck into these cavities that are here now. That gets feet out of the way. So now these can come down, and then there's one more panel that folds out on the side there. And now we can tab this whole thing together. So that just tabs together like that. This panel here, with this untabbed, this will come in, and now the little tab on this neck plate will actually tab into. It's hard to see. There's a little slot in there that this will tab into, and that will keep this kind of flush up against the bottom there. You can bring this down, and now there are these little pegs on the sides of the window section that'll peg into these little peg holes on the bottoms of the feet. So peg that in on both sides, and this will also help you kind of get the legs straight. So that's all together. This comes in, and this will kind of slot in up here, and there's also a little tab right here that goes into a little tab slot on the back of the shoulder. It does require a little bit of kind of flexing, but it's fine. It comes together just fine, and I didn't mention it before, but the plastic on this thing, it actually feels great. It's if you've handled Origin's Jazz, the plastic on Origin's Wheeljack feels the same. It feels very sturdy and durable. And while we've got him open up, I also want to point out the fact that they did some really cool stuff with the translucent plastic here, because, you know, typically the translucent plastic is like, not great, and they did the paint matching and stuff and it doesn't look great. But notice these windows, they're a separate piece. So this is its own piece here. So you don't have to worry about like paint matching or hinges breaking or anything like that. And same deal with the windshield. If you notice in there, it's actually pegged into the bigger piece. So all the translucent plastic is separate window pieces. And it feels sturdy. Like this is kind of that sturdy, solid translucent plastic that Victory Saber's stand is made out of, which I think is actually quite durable feeling. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Anyway, I want to unpeg these sections, and they kind of tuck in to the sides. Then you can leave this down if you want to do the tailgate thing, but for now we're going to bring it up, and this just kind of sits in like that, and then the back top of the vehicle comes in, and it'll tab in here, and these bits here will tab in on the sides. And despite having to line up so many different things, it actually comes together pretty effectively. Really, the only thing you got to do is like adjust the back a little bit, and then you push down, and it all kind of snugs into place. It's actually really simple how it slams down, and there we go. There we've got Wheeljack's vehicle mode. The only other thing to do is take these little gear pieces and peg them into those spots on the forearms from before, and they're at a slight angle so that they go forward on the vehicle mode. But yeah, there you go. There is Origin's Wheeljack's vehicle mode, and I think this is really cool, and I just bumped this out of place. I'm trying to talk you up. Why are you doing this? There we go. Just knocked the little panel in there out of place. But yeah, I actually think this is pretty neat because, like, there's something, I was talking to one of the people, one of the Discord people, Ridiculous Badger, we were talking about this the other day, how one of the things I think is really cool about this is you've got a pretty solid robot. Yes, he's bulky and panely, but like, you've got a pretty solid robot that expands out to make an empty box. And that, to me, is incredibly cool. I just think that's neat. Like, all of the robot mode is basically just along here, and then the rest of it kind of stretches up and out and around to make the rest of this. And what you're left with is a, empty box that Origin's B is designed to fit into, and I just think that's really neat. The vehicle is weird. It's very reminiscent, actually, of, it's like a boxier version of Origin's Jazz vehicle mode, because they both got the big, weird spoiler and stuff, but this is more of a car, this is more of like a truck or a van, which is funny because Wheeljack does not turn into something like that in G1. But yeah, I think this is cool. I like that you've got some paint and plastic going along the side for this gray that gives it kind of like a bumper fender feel. You don't have that gray down here, which does stand out a little bit, but I don't know if that's correct or not. But I love the way this thing comes together. It's a weird shape, and I like that also because of the way that they designed all of it with like the windows and stuff. You don't have to worry about paint matching really. So you've got this green stripe that goes all the way around the side there. You've got the weird silver, red, and blue tempo thing in the front. You've got the minty green windows, and even a little bit of minty green paint that I think is supposed to imply that this is one big side window. And it doesn't do that, but I appreciate that they went this route rather than trying to, have this be like one entire piece of this plastic and like paint it to look like that. That would have been a mess. Yeah, this is actually pretty cool. I like this, and the vehicle mode is, yeah, it expands out and it's just kind of hollow on the inside, intentionally hollow, but like it's interesting how the robot is deluxe height, but the vehicle is so much bigger and bulkier than you might expect. And of course, you can do the thing where if you do have to untab this, which I wish there was a way for this to open without doing this, but it's not a terrible thing. But like you can do that, hold this down, and then tab this back down, and that gives you the little tailgate thing where Origins B can tuck in there, and he can do the thing from the cartoon that happened for like 5 seconds. I don't have Origins B anymore currently, though. With having Wheeljack and Jazz now, I'm kind of wanting to get him again. Jazz will not fit back here. That's not going to happen. Even if we pop this, like that's as good as it's going to get, and this will not close. So yeah, you're not going to do that. Origins B, yes. Origins Jazz, no. But I think that's a neat thing. I like that this is an option, and it's, again, really impressive to me that they managed to do this on what is essentially a deluxe-sized figure. Voyager class, deluxe size. But, like, again, this is where I'm saying, like, I feel like the Voyager price point makes a little bit more sense because there are a lot of pieces and a lot of moving parts on this guy to make him come together like this. I also like how, because of the way this platform accordions out and like covers up the underside, it kind of makes it look like he's hovering a little bit. That's neat. And for the weapon, you have the gun here that you can just plug into a little spot right up here. Give him a little dinky blaster. You can do it. I think if you wanted to, you could plug it in here too. Yeah. It doesn't look great, but like you can store it there. Give him like a slightly beefier bumper, I guess. And of course, another option is to just toss the gun inside the the cabin section, because it is rather big. Now, this thing, again, like as you can see, this is completely unnecessary for all of this, and I love that because I do not like this. But if you want to use it, you can use it in vehicle mode. There are these little slots on either side here, and these little tabs on these bits of the plastic that just peg into the sides, and this wraps around and gives him like a, I don't know, like a shield thing. I never really paid much attention to that one episode, so I don't know the particulars of this, but it's a thing. You can do it. And the other thing that I've seen in the instructions, and this I'm not a fan of, it requires popping things out, but basically you can pop this apart and then pop it back together. Of course, you got to switch things around. I mean, this is sturdy. This is translucent plastic, but it is sturdy. This is like that solid, chunky, really good feeling plastic that like these windows are made out of, and like Victory Saber's stand is made out of. So like I don't worry about this breaking, but it's annoying to have to pop it apart, and then you have to switch sides because it's normally like this. You want to pop them off and put them like this, but you peg these in here, and that just gives you like a road piece for the display, I guess. And it's a thing that exists. I don't know. This is, in my mind, such a pointless thing, such a waste of 3 pieces of plastic. But I do, as I've said, I really am thrilled with the fact that it is not necessary in any capacity. So now that this video is pretty much done filming, this is going into a box in my closet with all of my other parts, and I'm never going to think of it again. So that's fine, because again, you do not need that part at all. And that, like, it wasn't going to be a deal breaker for me, but I was incredibly thrilled to find out that I did not actually need to hang on to that part for the vehicle mode. Now, as I said, the vehicle mode actually does make him appear a fair bit bigger. because it just expands out. It's like, you know, it's basically a balloon. He's hollow on the inside. So you have, compared to like a Tall Deluxe and the Voyager and all that, he's rather chunky looking. And like compare him to Burnout, like that is kind of wild. I mean, let's get the rest of these out of here. But like, remember, these two were basically, they looked to be the same size in robot mode. Wheeljack definitely had more mass to him just because he had so much junk and like panels folded up around him. But like vehicle mode wise, this looks more, you know, this looks more like a Voyager compared to a Deluxe. And that's, again, really impressive to me because like I like when you have a big robot that comes from a small vehicle because things compress and expand so much. That's really cool. But I'm almost as enamored when you have like a smaller robot that creates a bigger vehicle mode. There's something about having the two different modes not look like they could possibly be the same figure based on size and perceived mass that I think is really cool. Now let's get Burnout out of the way here and bring back Origins Jazz because we were looking at him earlier. So here is Origins Jazz, and there are the two of them together. Again, Jazz clearly looks like a Deluxe. Wheeljack clearly looks like a Voyager. And they look good together. As obviously Jazz has the Reaper labels on him, so his deco is way more intense than it normally is. And I'm not sure if the plastic is yellowing. It looks a little bit beigey compared to Wheeljack, but like I kind of feel like it was like that out of the box, so that just might be how the plastic is. So yeah, it's hard to say, but I don't. As long as it's uniform, I'm not too bothered by it. And as long as it doesn't become like brown, I guess we'll see. But I feel like I noticed this when I first did the video for this guy, and it hasn't gotten any worse. So I don't think it's actually the color changing. I think it was just like that out of the box. But there is Origins Jazz, and finally, for that vital size comparison, here is Origins Wheeljack with the duck tank. And that will do it for Origins Wheeljack. As I've said many times, I'm actually really surprised by just how much I like this guy. I kind of got him on a pseudo whim, thinking like, you know, he's the new hotness. Everybody wants him, so I don't have to worry if I don't like him. I could probably sell him off again for a pretty reason, like, you know, for what I paid, basically, if I decide I don't like him. But then I get him and I mess around with him, and it's like, actually, this like. I can't say for sure whether he's going to make the top 10 at the end of 2024, but like, I'm surprised that he's even in the runnings in my mind, because this is not what I would have expected from Origins Wheeljack of all things, but like, he is really cleverly designed. He comes together well. I really appreciate how the way everything kind of shifts and folds around gives you this kind of impressively large vehicle compared to a somewhat disappointingly small robot. It's cool. He's a surprisingly effective and neat figure that is also kind of fun to transform, not gonna lie. I get a kick out of it. I like how everything kind of has a place. Really, the only thing that bums me out is this nonsense with the panel coming out here. But again, if you kind of work with it, it's not too bad to avoid that problem. Also, straightening out the legs is a little bit tricky, just because of the way the joints work and stuff. But there we go. But yeah, this is a very cool figure. I like him a lot. Let's finish transforming this. You can see again how things flip around and tab in shockingly well. Like, I knew this guy was going to be panely from the get-go, but I was not expecting him to be so solid in terms of the way it all kind of holds and comes together. Rotated you the wrong way. And messed up the foot. There we go. And yeah, he's cool. He is cool. He is a bit messy. He is a bit Ghibli in robot mode. And yes, he is not. He's not a Voyager size figure. He is not traditionally Voyager sized. But none of that really matters to me. It's kind of like with Origins Jazz and Origins B, where I just feel like the Ghibliness and the shortcomings, given what these figures have to do and how they have to like do the impossible by turning the Earth mode robot into the Cybertronian alt mode while still looking like the Earth mode robot. Like, that's animation shenanigans, and considering all that has to be done with that, I'm more than fine with the concessions that they had to make. And this guy's just, as I said, surprisingly cool. So that has been my look, my overly wordy and redundant and talking in circles look at Legacy Origins Wheeljack. What do you all think of this guy? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching, and we have not yet run out of new stuff, so more new stuff in the next video.